All right, so picking up where we left off before, I had mentioned that I was going to have a little person climbing up in my Photoshop document. So this is what I did, and I think maybe the example that is in the, in the assignment outline, it might look different than this one, but that's okay because it's essentially the same point of view, right? So, um, and I sometimes whenever I redo stuff, I want to do something a little different anyway. So, but still, the points are all the same. The purposes, the goals, the principles are all the same. And I realized that because I noticed that in this demo, the angle that I chose is a little bit different than the one in the assignment outline, but still, it's basically the same. All right, so this climber is right here, and I'll show you what I did. I'm not going to walk you through every step because this tutorial is already pretty long. And again, you should be doing some of the other tutorials, and you've already done the other ones where I showed you how to do some basic reparation stuff using those tools. So the principles are what are really important, and being able to kind of conceive this and think about how you want to do something and then get to that point. So um, what I wanted to show you here is this is the original picture, right? This woman who is climbing up a rock face, and you'll see actually her foot is sort of dangling here, but I sort of decided that for my brand, I would like for no one to be hanging off of something. While excitement in extreme sports is good, I also don't necessarily think that it's danger, like danger Will Robinson, right? That's not really the message that I want to send either. So um, so anyway, what we ended up doing here is making a really good selection of this figure, masking it, and then if you come up here, I'm gonna zoom in on this so you can kind of see a little bit better. But coming in up here, and this is the climber, right? And so what I also ended up doing is I ended up creating a shadow that you can see I can turn on and off. But I ended up creating the shadow, and I just noticed actually the shadow kind of goes over and onto the background of this back here. I don't think it's really that noticeable because it could just as easily be some darker area in the way that the grass is growing. But if if I could go back and I guess get rid of that, but if I turn off the version of the climber, basically to create the shadow, what I did was I duplicated the climber, right? And then I just took my paint bucket and I filled it and I turned the opacity down. All right, and so that's how I ended up getting the shadow. You can see right here that the shadow is only 51%. All right, and so but that way you can get the basic shape of the person, and then you can use the distortion tools. So you can go up to edit, and you can go to transform, and then you can choose like skew, or what I usually use is distort. Skew will still constrain certain orientations. Distort doesn't. It really does allow you to fully distort something, which is often what you need with a shadow. All right, and so that's how I created the shadow. And then all of these were turned off, and so I felt like the color of this person was a little bit off. Actually, it's not that bad. And so I ended up giving it a little bit more contrast with this filter, and you can see that it's got a layer mask, so it doesn't affect any of the rest of the image. And then this one also has a layer mask, and it actually takes some of the redness out of the flush tone. So that's what that one's doing. And this one, it's just very, very subtle. It's a color balance thing. And then this one is a color balance that is applied to the entire thing. And I thought that that actually was kind of nice to give this warmth to the entire photograph. And so I actually, that might not be so bad actually to have this bottom brightness contrast turned off. But if you really wanted it to have high contrast, you could. I actually think that maybe having that extra contrast, it's helpful in getting some of the color in the shirt, but at the same time, it's also potentially the thing that makes it blend in with everything else, right? So either way, but anyway, that's how I kind of got to the final point, and so that you can see this long process. It started off with a logo, right, and then turning it into 3D, sticking it in an environment, and then rendering it after getting all the light sourcing and everything squared away. And then after that, bringing it back into a flat environment where you can easily make some manipulations like, you know, that I couldn't have done in 3D space in the same way. Not really. With you know, having some of this overlapping foliage and stuff so that it really feels like it's sitting in the ground, it's buried in the ground, and then adding this figure that's climbing up the rock wall. All right, and so so yeah, there you go. Okay, and I don't have, you'll notice that I don't have my Instagram output settings here, but that's okay. It would be really easy for me to open one of my files. I showed you before how you can duplicate a layer group into another file, and so I could easily do that, and I already know that it fits because it's the same full scale output as the other one was, right? The other thing I could also do is I could go to my crop presets and I could choose, you know, like this would be the square, for instance. I could make the square smaller if I wanted, or I could choose, you know, the 4:5 ratio. I could choose, you know, a landscape ratio and so on. Okay, all right, but you get the idea. And that's going to be the end of this demo.